What if some of the most familiar faces in American culture were hiding truths they were never allowed to share? For decades, fame demanded silence, and carefully crafted images replaced authentic identity. Behind the spotlight, these stars lived double lives, playing roles far beyond the screen. This story isn't about scandal or controversy. It's about courage. The courage to survive in silence, and eventually, to live openly and honestly in a world that wasn't ready to listen. Caitlyn Jenner's journey is not simply a story of celebrity transition, but a deeply human story of truth delayed by fear, pressure, and responsibility. Long before the world knew her as an Olympic champion, Caitlyn lived with a private reality she struggled to name, let alone share. Growing up in an era where conversations about gender identity were rare and often misunderstood, she learned early that silence felt safer than honesty. Athletic success became both refuge and armor. Winning the gold medal at the 1976 Olympics brought global admiration and solidified a public image of strength and masculinity. Yet behind that celebrated identity, the inner conflict remained unresolved. Fame did not erase it. If anything, it intensified the distance between who she was expected to be and who she truly was. As the years passed, Caitlyn quietly sought medical guidance and explored her identity in private, all while trying to maintain a conventional family life. Fear of judgment, fear of loss, and concern for her children repeatedly pushed her back into hiding. Each step toward openness was followed by retreat, shaped by social expectations and personal doubt. The decision to transition at age 65 was not sudden or impulsive. It was the result of decades of reflection and emotional endurance. When Caitlyn finally came forward in 2015, she described the transition not as a choice, but as a matter of survival. Her story challenged long-held assumptions about age, identity, and courage, reminding America that living truthfully has no expiration date. Marilyn Monroe remains one of the most recognizable icons in American history, a symbol of beauty, desire, and Hollywood fantasy. To the public, she represented effortless glamour, adored by audiences and carefully shaped by the studio system. Yet behind the perfectly crafted image lived a woman of emotional depth, curiosity, and quiet vulnerability, often at odds with the persona the world demanded she maintain. Those closest to Monroe understood that her private life did not fit neatly into the rigid expectations of her time. Persistent rumors connected her to several prominent women in Hollywood, including fellow actresses whose names circulated quietly within industry circles. Whether these relationships were fleeting or deeply emotional remains uncertain, but they suggest an openness to intimacy beyond the strict social boundaries of mid-century America. In her final years, Monroe sought guidance through psychotherapy, confiding feelings of loneliness and dissatisfaction with traditional relationships. Accounts from people familiar with those sessions describe a woman struggling to reconcile physical closeness with emotional safety. Despite being celebrated as a sex symbol, she often felt unseen and misunderstood, particularly in her relationships with men. Within Hollywood's inner circles, Monroe's bisexuality was widely regarded as an open secret, carefully protected from public exposure. Directors and colleagues later hinted at her emotional disconnect from the image imposed upon her. Marilyn Monroe was far more than a fantasy on screen. She was a woman searching for connection, understanding, and acceptance in a world that admired her beauty but rarely recognized her truth. Jennings represents a new generation of transgender visibility, one shaped by openness, honesty, and early self-awareness. Long before most children can articulate who they are, Chaz knew with certainty that she was a girl. From an early age, she expressed herself freely, gravitating toward clothing and activities that felt natural to her, and confidently correcting adults when they misunderstood her identity. What stood out most was not confusion, but clarity. Chaz first came to national attention at just 6 years old during a televised interview, calmly explaining her experience to millions of viewers. For many Americans, it was their first exposure to a transgender child speaking openly and authentically. That moment helped shift public understanding and challenged long-held assumptions about gender identity and age. Central to Chaz's journey has been the unwavering support of her family. Rather than silencing or dismissing her feelings, her parents chose to listen, learn, and advocate alongside her. Their acceptance gave Chaz the emotional security to grow up without hiding a core part of herself, something many before her were never allowed. As she grew older, Chaz shared her life through the TLC series I Am Chaz, offering an intimate look at both her achievements and struggles. The show humanized the transgender experience for countless families across America. Named one of Time magazine's most influential teens, Jennings continues to stand as a powerful symbol of self-acceptance, reminding the world that identity comes from within, not from expectation. Christine Jorgensen holds a unique and historic place in American culture, as one of the first transgender women to become widely known to the public. In the early 1950s, at a time when conversations about gender identity were virtually non-existent, her transition became national news, forcing America to confront a reality it had long ignored. Born George Jorgensen Jr. in New York City, Christine grew up feeling deeply disconnected from the identity she was assigned at birth, long before she had the language to explain it. After serving in the U.S. Army, Christine traveled to Denmark, where she underwent a series of gender-affirming medical procedures. When she returned to the United States in 1952, headlines sensationalized her story, often treating her identity as a curiosity rather than a human truth. Despite intense media scrutiny, Christine chose visibility over silence, understanding that her existence alone challenged social norms. Rather than retreating from public life, she used her platform thoughtfully. Christine became a performer, lecturer, and advocate, speaking openly about gender identity with dignity and intelligence. Her calm, articulate presence helped humanize transgender lives at a time when misunderstanding was widespread and often cruel. Christine Jorgensen never claimed to represent everyone, but her courage opened doors that had long been sealed shut. She helped shift public awareness from shock to conversation, laying early groundwork for future generations. Her legacy remains a powerful reminder that visibility, even when imperfect, can change history. Laverne Cox has become one of the most influential voices for transgender visibility in American culture, but her impact was shaped long before the spotlight found her. Growing up in Mobile, Alabama, in a conservative and deeply religious environment, Laverne understood early on that she was different. Her natural femininity set her apart, often making her the target of bullying and rejection that left lasting emotional scars. Instead of silencing her, those experiences strengthened her resilience. Dance became her first form of freedom, a space where expression and discipline came together when the world felt unsafe. As she entered adolescence, the pressure to hide her true self intensified, leading to a serious emotional crisis. Surviving that period marked a turning point, reinforcing her determination to live honestly and without apology. After moving to New York City, Laverne began her gender transition and fully embraced the woman she had always known herself to be. Her breakthrough role as Sophia Bursette on Orange is the New Black changed the landscape of television. The performance was widely praised for its emotional depth and authenticity, offering audiences a human and nuanced portrayal of a transgender woman. In 2014, Laverne Cox became the first openly transgender person nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award in an acting category. Today, she stands as a cultural trailblazer, an advocate for dignity, representation, and equality, proving that visibility can inspire understanding and lasting change. MJ Rodriguez represents a turning point in American television, where transgender women are no longer confined to the margins, but centered as complex, powerful leads. Born and raised in Newark, New Jersey, MJ grew up with a deep love for performance and storytelling. From a young age, she understood that her identity did not align with the expectations placed upon her, Yet she also recognized the risk of expressing that truth openly. As she pursued acting, MJ faced an industry that offered few opportunities for transgender performers, especially women of color. Rather than waiting for permission, she committed to her craft, training rigorously and refusing to shrink herself to fit limited roles. Her journey was shaped by patience, resilience, and an unshakable belief in her worth. Everything changed with her groundbreaking role as Blanca Evangelista on FX's Pose. The series did more than entertain. It honored the ballroom culture of the 1980s and 1990s while centering transgender women as mothers, leaders, and survivors. MJ's performance was widely praised for its warmth, strength, and emotional truth. In 2022, MJ Rodriguez made history as the first openly transgender woman to win a Golden Globe in a leading actress category. Her achievement marked a cultural shift, proving that talent and authenticity belong at the highest levels of recognition. Today, MJ Rodriguez stands as a symbol of progress, visibility, and the power of being seen fully and unapologetically. Chaz Bono's journey unfolded under an intense public spotlight long before he had the language to understand his own identity. Born to music legends Sonny Bono and Cher, Chaz grew up surrounded by fame, media attention, and high expectations. Yet beneath that visibility was a quiet and persistent feeling of misalignment. From an early age, presenting as female felt uncomfortable, as though he were playing a role that never truly belonged to him. As the years passed, that discomfort deepened. Coming to terms with one's identity is never simple, but doing so while carrying a famous last name brought added pressure, fear, and scrutiny. For a long time, Chaz carried this internal conflict privately, attempting to reconcile personal truth with public image and the expectations of others. In the late 2000s, that struggle reached a turning point. Chaz made the decision to transition and began living openly as the man he had always known himself to be. The process was thoughtful and gradual, involving medical transition as well as emotional adjustment. For Chaz, the change was not about becoming someone new, but about finally being honest. Following his transition, Chaz continued working in entertainment, appearing in television series such as The Secret Life of the American Teenager and American Horror Story. His presence helped normalize transgender men on mainstream television. Alongside him, Cher also evolved, openly sharing her journey of learning and growth, always affirming her unconditional love for her son. James Dean remains one of the most enduring symbols of rebellion in American culture. A figure who embodied sensitivity, defiance, and emotional depth at a time when masculinity was expected to be rigid and restrained. On screen, he portrayed young men who refused to conform. Off-screen, that same resistance shaped a private life far more complex than the image Hollywood presented to the public. Biographers and close friends have long described Dean as someone who rejected fixed labels, particularly when it came to sexuality. While his romantic relationship with actress Pierre Angeli was highly publicized, it represented only part of his emotional world. Behind the scenes, Dean formed deep and intimate connections with men, including actor Sal Mineo and theater producer Rogers Brackett. In an era hostile to openness, these relationships were necessarily private. Those who knew him well recalled that Dean viewed desire as something to be explored honestly rather than denied. Writer and confidant John Gilmore later suggested that Dean spoke openly about same-sex experiences among trusted friends. One of Dean's most quoted remarks captures this philosophy. He refused to go through life with one hand tied behind my back, a statement often interpreted as both artistic and personal truth. Years after his death, Elizabeth Taylor publicly acknowledged Hollywood's hidden realities, mentioning Dean while honoring LGBTQ visibility. James Dean lived briefly, but authentically, choosing freedom over conformity and leaving behind a legacy defined not by labels, but by courage. These stories remind us that behind the fame, the headlines, and the carefully constructed images, were real people fighting quietly to live as themselves. Their courage, whether expressed openly or in silence, helped reshape culture and expand understanding over time. Progress did not happen overnight, but it happened because of lives lived truthfully. If these stories moved you, take a moment to reflect, share this video, and join the conversation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the stories that matter most.